Taiju Oki is about to confess his love for Yujiri Yagawa, a fellow student. After 5 years of unhealthy obsession, suddenly a green light turns every human on the planet into stone and nature takes control. 3,700 years later, Kiju is able to free himself from his captivity. Yuzuriya meets up with his genius friend Senku Ishigami, who had awoken 6 months earlier after discovering the tree where he is petrified. Senku seeks to rebuild civilization in this stone world using his scientific knowledge and Tiger's brawn to help him develop a needle solution out of a miracle water made from bad guano that may be able to free people from their petrified state. After a year of research and development, the two friends have succeeded in creating a successful revival fluid blend. Senku and Taiju prepare enough revival fluid to resurrect one person, with Taiju selecting Yuzuriya as the first subject. However, they are suddenly pursued by a pack of hungry lions, prompting them to resurrect Tsukasa Shishio, the town's strongest fighter, to fight them off. Tsukasa kills the male lion and skins it to wear as part of his outfit. Senku assigns Taiju with harvesting seashells and grinding them into calcium carbonate as a first step towards advancing civilization, as Tsukasa has proven to be a valuable hunter, providing food for the trio. Tsukasa, on the other hand, tells Senku that he plans to murder petrified adults in order to create a world free of corrupt adults, which goes against Senku's ideals of reviving everyone. Senku sends Tsukasa away to find the source of the revival fluid, while he and Taiju prepare a batch of revival fluid to finally revive Yuzuriya. Senku and the others set out for Hakone in search of scientific weapons to stop Tsukasa's murder spree, with Yuzuriya finding the great Buddha of Kamakura to serve as a landmark. Senku is given the ability to make gunpowder after the trio arrives in a volcanic hot spring. Following Senku's successful batch of gunpowder, which Taiju inadvertently sets ablaze, the group notices a different source of smoke in the distance, implying that there are other survivors. Senku decides to light the gunpowder even more to use as a smoke signal, prompting Tsukasa to track him down and kidnap Yuzuriya in order to get the recipe for the revival fluid. Senku recalls how he developed his love of science and became friends with Taiju as he relinquishes the recipe to save Yuzuriya and is given the option of abandoning science or dying. Senku prepares to die at Tsukasa's hands, refusing to abandon science after Tsukasa appears to kill Senku by striking him in the neck. Taiju and Yuzuriya uses gunpowder to set off an explosion around Tsukasa, allowing them to flee, recognizing that Senku would not simply sacrifice himself. Taiju and Yuzuriya discover a spot of petrification on his neck, allowing them to heal the fatal injury by converting the petrification back to healthy flesh using the revival fluid. Meanwhile, a flashback depicts Senku's first steps out of his petrification and the tools he needed to survive. The flashback continues to show how Senku tracked down Taiju and set about unpetrifying him. Senku is successfully revived in the present thanks to the revival fluid, which makes him curious about the fluid's regenerative properties. Senku accomplishes this by sending Taiju and Yuzuriya as spies into Tsukasa's army while he searches for new allies. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl named Kahaku tries to attack Tsukasa, but she is trapped under a tree by Tsukasa, who then proceeds to the miraculous water cave. Senku discovers Kahaku after Tsukasa has left and uses his science knowledge to construct a block and tackle to lift the tree off of Kahaku. Senku is returned to her village by Kahaku, where he meets guards Kinro and Jinro, as well as a sorcerer named Chrome. Despite the fact that Chrome's sorcery fails to demonstrate his superiority, Senku recognizes Chrome's sorcery as the primitive beginning of the Stone World's first scientific discoveries. Senku is so impressed with Chrome's progress on his own that he appoints him as his apprentice. Senku tells Chrome about the world that existed 3,700 years ago and decides to help him develop an antibiotic to save Kahaku's sickly sister Ruri. After learning that Chrome became a sorcerer to help Kahaku's sickly sister Ruri, Senku, Kahaku and Chrome were aided in their search for the ingredients needed to make an antibiotic by another villager named Suika. The gang sends Suika to gather information on what the villagers want because they need more manpower to turn iron sand into iron. Senku discovers that food is a common theme among the villagers' desires and uses foxtail millet to make ramen to win them over Genosejiri, a revived magician from Senku's time who had been sent by Tsukasa to confirm Senku's death, but claims he will instead give a false report. Approaches the gang while they are eating ramen. Senku takes advantage of a sudden thunderstorm to transform the successfully completed iron into powerful magnets, while Jin uses his street magic to ward off a violent villager named Magma. The gang uses the magnets to construct a power generator which they persuade Kinro and Jinro to operate, resulting in the light bulb's reinvention. Jin is suddenly attacked by a mysterious assailant while recalling the time he was first revived by Tsukasa, barely surviving thanks to fake blood bags he had protected himself with. When Kahaku discovers that the perpetrator was Magma, who mistakenly believed that Jin was the sorcerer rather than Senku, he reveals that Magma did so in order to win the Grand Bata tournament that Kahaku had previously defeated to prevent him from marrying Ruri and becoming village elder. Jin gives a false report to Tsukasa after Senku promises to make him a bottle of cola. As Kahaku, Kinro and Jinro train for the grand bout, Senku produces glass from quartz sand which he uses to make glasses for Suika, who is nearsighted. Chrome hires Kaski, a skilled craftsman who can quickly adapt to the unfamiliar substance because he lacks the skills required to glassblow usable lab utensils. Senku offers to make Jinro a silver spear as part of a dangerous mission to break in their new lab. Senku's silver spear turns out to be a sensor for detecting poisonous gases emitted by a pool of sulfuric acid which they require for the antibiotics. Senku offers to teach Chrome everything he knows about science on the off chance that he dies, but Chrome declines, preferring instead to use a tag team approach. Prone nearly falls into the pool while gathering the acid with special gas masks, but is saved by Jinro, who overcomes his fear and assists the duo in obtaining a bottle of the acid. Senku and the others start making the antibiotics' other components. Once they have their base ingredients, Senku joins the others in the grand bout, which offers alcohol to the winner in order to complete the remaining elements. Senku is greeted by Rory, who appears to recognize his name from somewhere when he arrives in the village for the grand bout. Mantle, Magma's henchman, kidnaps Suika, ties her to a tree, and tells Kahaku that Suka is drowning, causing Kahaku to flee even though he knows he is lying. Suka, having escaped her captivity and noticing Kinro struggling with his vision, gives him her mask containing the lenses of her glasses, allowing him to see more clearly and defeat Magma in the first round. Magma deceives Kinro into consulting the referee so that he can attack from behind and claim victory. He then has Mantle throw his match against Kron to disqualify Kahaku for not returning in time when facing Magma in a one-sided semifinal match. Chrome combines his tears with Suika's glasses to create a magnifying lens capable of starting a fire. Jin returns using his sorcery to divert Magma's attention long enough for Chrome to set fire to Magma's clothes and win the match. Following Chrome's match, Jinro informs Rory that he and Senku will throw their matches together so that Chrome and she can be together when Murray says she will not pick a side and will marry whoever wins. Jinro's determined to defeat Senku and become the new chief, which everyone fears. Senku uses Chrome's weapon to hit Jinro's groins to win the match just before Chrome passes out after fleeing from Jinro. Senku has declared Murray's husband as a result of Chrome passing out before the final match, but he divorces her as soon as he obtains the alcohol he requires. The gang finally finishes their sulfa drug and gives it to Rory after working all night. When Rory's illness is discovered to be pneumonia, the sulfa drugs are found to be effective and Rory recovers completely. Senku is named the new chief of the village, which is revealed to be called Ishigami Village as a thank you, and Rory reveals that she already knew Senku. Rory explains that she first learned of Senku's name from a story told to her by her mother. Senku's father, Byakuya, became an astronaut after Senku created an electric suit to assist him in passing the JAXA swimming exam. Byakuya joins fellow crew members Connie, Dahlia, and Yakov on the International Space Station 5 years after passing his exams alongside cosmonaut Shamil Volkov and American singer Lillian. Weinberg Byakuya and the crew witness a phenomenon that turns everyone on Earth into stone, leaving them as the only 6 humans left. Shamal, Lillian and Connie venture down to the surface after Byakuya deduces that the phenomenon originated in South America, but they end up in the middle of the ocean, requiring Byakuya and the others to go down and rescue them on a nearby island. The 6 begin living together, forming relationships and raising children together. However, as the crew begins to succumb to pneumonia, Byakuya writes down the 100 tales in the hopes that Senku will one day be able to use them. Rory returns to the present and takes Senku to the village cemetery where Byakuya is buried, relaying Byakuya's final message to Senku. The 100 tales are a scientific gift for him. Tsukasa and his army are approaching, so Gen warns Senku and the others. Kinro is beaten down by a group of Tsukasa's army, led by a man named Hyoga. As they approach the village, Senku, with the help of Gen and Magma, convinces Hyoga's group that they have already produced guns, forcing them to retreat. Jinro is unwilling to cut down the bridge to the village while Kinro is still on it. Hyoga's team attacks again 3 days later, this time during a storm that renders guns useless, only to discover that Senku and the villagers have managed to produce katanas, despite the fact that Hyoga's spear technique makes him a formidable opponent. The spear breaks due to Gen's cunning sabotage. Hyoga reveals that his attack was just a ruse to allow his ally Hamura to sneak into the village and set fire to it, forcing the villagers out into the open. Suika successfully lures Hyoga's troops away from the village, stranding him and Hamura above the acid pool's poisonous gases. In order to protect the Kingdom of Science, 3 of Hyoga's minions are pushed off the tree and killed by the poisonous gases. Senku sets his sights on reinventing the cellular phone in order to attack Tsukasa's army before it grows too large. Hyoga meanwhile informs Tsukasa that Senku is still alive. Senku and village have started work on the cell phone with plans to finish it by spring. Senku creates a cotton candy machine to test with sugar in order to manufacture gold filaments for wiring. Hamura, who has been spying on the Kingdom of Science, receives cotton candy from Senku. Senku develops a gear train for the cotton candy machine after running into problems while making filaments, inspiring Chrome to build a water wheel. With Keski, Senku mechanizes the iron-making process with the new water wheel, allowing the villagers to focus on winter preparations. Meanwhile, Senku, Chrome and Keski start working on light bulbs that will allow them to decorate a tree for Christmas. Chrome employs his new invention to delve deeper into caves where he discovers a slew of new minerals. Senku and Keski attempt to build a vacuum tube, but they are unable to find a filament that can withstand the high temperatures. Senku receives inspiration from Suika during a New Year's sunrise and realizes that tungsten is the solution, so he sends himself, Chrome and Magma on a spelunking expedition. Senku, Chrome and Magma are looking for tungsten in a nearby cave. Magma tries to save Senku from falling into a sinkhole after they come across a mica vein, but they both end up trapped by filling the sinkhole with water. Chrome saves them both after coming across a mineral deposit. The 3 rush back to the village in order to make it in time for Senku's birthday celebrations. Gen in the village built an observatory for Senku while the 3 were away. Senku reveals the tungsten pile that will be used in the final preparation. To make it usable, it must first be crushed into a fine powder and then heated to an extremely high temperature. While Senku prepares the tungsten powder, he orders Chrome and Keski to use everything they have learned since Senku's arrival in the village to devise a method of pinpoint high-temperature heating. After the tungsten filament is made, everyone divides into groups to finish the remaining tasks. Suika and her friends finish twining the gold wire. Senku and Chrome make the necessary plastic. Kinro, Jinro and Kahaku make a microphone out of coal ash, and Gen and Murray mixing carbon batteries. They all complete their tasks and Senku puts it all together, resulting in the world's first modded cell phone. Senku informs the villagers that full functionality requires 2 cell phones, much to their dismay. Murray tells Senku about one of the 100 tales after testing the cell phone over a wire, alluding to a time capsule sealed in Byakuya's gravestone, a glass record. Byakuya intended to make a record that would allow him to communicate with Senku over millennia. Senku and the villagers are able to hear the astronauts' voices for the first time since petrification. as well as a song from Lillian. Thanks to a phonograph he reconstructed, the song motivates the villagers to recreate modern-day entertainment. Senku declares a stone war against Tsukasa with the help of the village and his cell phone. Taiju and Yuzuri wait for Senku to finish his part of the plan while Yuzuri keeps Taiju from revealing their identities. Tsukasa and Hyoga prepare for Ishigami village's impending attack. In order to seize control over the Cave of Miracles, where the nitric acid used as the key ingredient in the revival fluid exists, Senku sends Chrome Gen and Magma to infiltrate the Tsukasa Empire and to plant one of these two cell phones in their territory. After Senku has an emotional conversation with Taiju and Yuzu over the phone, he and again used their communication skills to convince and revert many people from the Tsukasa Empire to their side. Senku and the gang then set off to fight the enemy using a car called Steam Gorilla, which they later improved to become a war tank that fires a bluff bullet. The two kingdoms engage in an all-out war, and despite that our main characters are outnumbered, Senku tells them to fight without killing anyone. They use one science weapon after another while rushing towards their target, the Cave of Miracles. However, Tsukasa and Hyuga soon joined the battle and changed the flow of the war in their favor. Senku had no choice but to create another lethal science weapon inside the cave while his friends held the strongest warriors back. After a nerve-wracking chemical experiment, Senku creates one of humanity's greatest inventions, dynamite, and it quickly turns the tables. Tsukasa and Senku begin negotiations. As they've arrived at a stalemate, Senku offers an attempt to bring back Tsukasa's little sister, who's been in a coma for a long time, hoping that the recovery properties of the revival fluid will save her, while Tsukasa chooses to trust Senku. Hyoga sets a plot to kill them both, but utterly fails when they form humanity's strongest tag team of science in brute force. During this side fight, Tsukasa is severely wounded, and the only way to save him was to petrify him and then revive him, but they don't know what causes petrification or how it works. So to solve the mystery of petrification and save Tsukasa, the Kingdom of Science sets their next target towards finding the source of petrification. And this is how the anime ends. Dr. Stone Season 3 is set to release in 2023. Stay tuned for what this season brings us. Thank you for watching Animetv. See you in the next video.